Hello everyone and welcome back to my Warhammer 40k guides. I am Brady and today's video will be called Stuff to Consider when Making an Army List. This is more or less a part 2 of the last video, How to Build a Competitive Army List from Scratch. The reason I am doing this video is because I forgot a few things and thought of a few things after the video, and had enough ideas to talk about, so I'm making another video. With that said, let's get into the actual content. When building a list, consider which sub-faction you want to use and use the units that benefit from their faction trait the best. For example, if you were playing Alpha Legion as your sub-faction of Chaos Space Marines, then their chapter tactic is that they are -1 to hit when being shot at. Because of this, an optimal Alpha Legion list spams units that gain this trait since it is the most powerful aspect of the army. With Guard, they now have regiments, which is their version of chapters. Pick the units that best suit the regiment tactic you have chosen. Keep in mind though, if you're going to be playing an army with multiple regiments or chapters, make sure to have them painted differently so your opponent can tell the difference. ITZ events have this as a rule now and will force you to play your whole army as one force if you haven't painted them differently. And painting them differently can be as easy as these Talarn guys have black helmets and the Cadia guys have green ones. It's that simple. Just make sure your opponent can tell the difference easily. Now let's get into the part of the discussion that I really wanted to talk about, and that is army keywords. If you don't fully understand keywords, you can watch my How to Build a Legal Army List video to get the gist of it, but to quickly summarize it, keywords are how you build your army. With the way keywords work, Warhammer 40k list building feels a lot like Magic the Gathering's deck building. So for anyone who plays Magic, you'll know there are many different ways to build a deck. You can go by archetype like demons or goblins, or you can go by colors like red and blue. Each way you build your deck accomplishes a different goal and can be vastly different from other decks who follow the same suit. Warhammer works like this now with the fact that keywords, you can now have an Ultramarine army or an Imperium army, meaning you can use anything in your army that has the Imperium keyword, and that includes a lot of stuff. You can even have one detachment that is an Imperium detachment, and throw anything and everything Imperium into it. Want an army that uses Space Wolf Cavalry with Blood Angels Death Company? You can do it, run an Imperium list. Want an army that uses Imperial Guard tanks but has Marines as troops? You can do it, run an Imperium list with the Imperium keyword. There is one downside to this though, and that is if your detachments aren't dedicated to one specific sub-faction, like Ultramarines, or Talarn, or Ravenwing, then you lose out on access to those sub-faction specific stratagems and army rules. So to give you an example, here's a quick whatever points list of Imperium. This is a patrol detachment, meaning it needs 1 HQ and 1 troop choice. So you take Celestine from Ministorum as your HQ choice and use Ultramarine Tacticals as your troop choice. The keyword used for this detachment is Imperium. So this detachment gets all of the Imperium special rules and stratagems. And spoiler alert, there aren't any Imperium special rules or stratagems. But now let's trade out Celestine for a Space Marine Captain. Now this detachment is an Ultramarine detachment because everything in the detachment shares the Ultramarine keyword. Meaning this detachment now has access to the Ultramarine stratagems and army rules. So you can combine your forces, but I would keep them in different detachments. You're allowed up to 3 detachments for a 2,000 point army list anyways, so use them all. Get as many command points as possible, since detachments are how you get your command points. Getting back into the Magic the Gathering aspect of building a list, you can mix and match your 3 detachments to achieve the goal you want. Here's a quick example. You want to play Grey Knights because they are really strong, but you notice that they are so expensive it's hard to farm up command points with them. So you can take a Brigade of Guard for as cheap as 500 points to get yourself 9 command points, and then build a Vanguard or whatever you want of Grey Knights. Your army is technically Imperium, but you have detachments that are Guard, or whatever type of Guard now, so Cadia or Talarn, whatever, and Grey Knight detachments. And yes, you can use any command point on any stratagem you have available. So just because the Guard got you 9 command points, doesn't mean you have to spend those 9 command points on the Guard units. You can spend them on the Grey Knights. This is what I mean when I say it feels like deck building from Magic the Gathering, because of how lax the keyword system is, and how different armies will serve different purposes while making an overall competitive list. This isn't a complaint, I actually love the new system because it opens up so much variety, it's insane. Another example of this would be taking guard again in a battalion or brigade to use as your screen, since your normal army doesn't have a cheap enough screen. So something we see a lot of these days are ultramarine tanks with a guard screen. This is a great combo since conscripts with a commissar are more survivable than scouts, and they are much less expensive, so you can get many more. Keep all of this in mind when building a list. If your army doesn't have access to good anti-tank, then bring a detachment of a sub-faction that does. Just remember, your overall army has to share at least one keyword, which will most likely be Imperium, Chaos, or Eldari. If you play Orcs, Tau, or Necrons, you are kinda stuck playing with only Orcs, Tau, and Necrons, because they don't really have any friends. So don't be afraid to buy some small armies of other sub-factions to support and go with your main army. They can help each other. Personally, I bought 90 conscripts and 2 commissars just to use as a battalion for an easy 3 command points, and because it's the best screen in the game for any Imperium army. Well, that's arguable now with Volgrins and stuff, but in my opinion, it's the best and cheapest screen in the game for an Imperium army. Another reason it works for me is because in match play, you can only have half of your units in Deep Strike. Well, that battalion of guard is 5 units, meaning I can put 5 of my Grey Knight units into Deep Strike. Whereas if I wanted to do a battalion of Grey Knights and wanted 5 units on the board, it would be about 3 to 4 times more expensive as the guard battalion, meaning I would get less of the stuff that I actually want. Now, with all of this knowledge, you should be able to make a competitive list, or at least a semi-competitive list. Work with what you own for now, but if you want to be super competitive, then keep up with the global meta by subscribing to my channel, since I produce a top 10 armies list every month based off of what is winning. And then, use those lists to help guide you on what is the best at the time, so you know which units to either buy or work into your army list. Anyways, I hope I taught you guys something, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode. Happy wargaming!